Hello everyone! Welcome to the stream. Sorry for starting a couple of minutes late. I hope everyone is well. Poppy is just being a scamp, so I know she's gonna jump up in a second and make me jump. She's just sitting there in her ready pose, about to jump, and she will jump up and give me a shock any second now. So you can all be ready for that. Yeah, good. The sound is good. I have this little routine now to make sure that it hasn't down pitched my voice, make sure the sound is all good, where I load up the settings, and every single time the settings have, it's not that they restore to a default because that would be consistent. It's that whatever it was on last time, it is now on something else. And so I just go in there and switch it back to what I want, and then I do a little test on the thing, and then I restart it, and then test it again, and then it's fine. Today, for the first time in literally since I've started doing the streams this year, so however many streams I've done this year, for the first time I opened the settings and they're the same as last week, which I was really suspicious about. So I did my rest of my little test procedure, but it's fine. Anyway, I'm glad that the sound is good. It might be a little quiet because I'm far from the microphone. But no, it's not OBS acting up. I've got my setup on my desk is set so that I can record guitar and stuff and do microphone at the same time in case I ever wanted to do a stream where I play guitar and talked, but also so I can not have to unplug and plug things in, so I can just record guitar and then separately record audio and all this kind of stuff. And so I have this little box which merges all the sounds and things by M Audio, and something to do with that default settings, which I think are fine, and then Windows default settings, which change every time I turn the computer on. Something about that they don't like each other. OBS is pretty good. I mean, it's clunky, it's a bit ugly, it's a bit dumb, but it's fine. I don't have a problem with OBS particularly. Anyway, how's everyone doing? We actually have we got some stuff to talk about this week. It's not actually been. Oh, there is actually one thing I wanted to cover that I haven't looked at yet. We might learn something live in action about the American version of the cast review, which looks to be even more of a fucking fraudulent sham than the original was. But other than that, there's not been that much major news, apart from we have some good news in the UK, which is rare. So we're going to enjoy that together. And then we've got a bunch of other things to cover. It should be a good show. It'll be a less depressing stream than usual. We've actually got some really positive and inspiring stuff from multiple communities all coming together for trans people. So that's really good. And then we'll dunk on some idiots and do the standards. So it should be good. But why don't we start off with some good news, which everyone can be relieved about. So today, in the House of Commons, there was a debate about a bill. And there are always bills going through Parliament. This one was called the Data Bill. And the Data Bill itself is neutral, or at least as far as I understand it, it's fine. Who cares? But a Conservative politician tried to add an amendment to the bill. So a classic legal word and politics word, you might know what it means, but basically they just added some bits on. And so the bill, it's a way of trying to sneak things in sometimes. You can sometimes sneak in a part that's not really related to the law, and then it gets passed, and then that becomes law because it's part of a bigger law, and then it's harder to change. But basically, the Data Bill itself is about trying to get a common record of people in the UK in order to make it easier to identify people, so that you don't have to use your bank in order to verify who you are. I'm sure there are privacy groups who are opposed to this. I'm sure there are some who are in favor of it. I don't have an opinion. I'm just looking at this one amendment. So the amendment was actually really bad. So it was Amendment NC 21, and it was debated today, and it was introduced by Conservative MPs. And basically, this one online ID, which would be in the UK, in order to like verify who you are. It's like when you want to try and sign up for something, and they're like, say, oh, you've got to provide your bank details, and the reason that is so that they can then ask the bank if you're a real person. And the problem with that is then you're relying on like private institutions in order to verify who you are. So the government wanted like their own one. And of course, this Conservative amendment wanted to record sex only as birth sex. But also, it would record whether someone was trans or not. And this, like, who knows who would be able to get hold of this data, but it'd basically be like a registry of all trans people, completely violating any privacy rights we have, which is particularly scary for people who transitioned decades ago, but it does affect all trans people. There's no reason why any public authority should be able to have a list of all the trans people. That just could only be a bad thing. And it would also restrict which public authorities can provide sex data, starting with the General Register Office, which records sex at birth only. So yeah, this was like a very gender critical anti-trans rights move, and it was actually quite scary. It's to a similar level to what the Supreme Court ruling was. The Supreme Court ruling has removed some of our rights, and this was set to remove some of our rights. So this is an article here trying to explain simply what it would do. So it would permit public authorities to record your I hate all this timing, acquired gender as if they have a gender recognition certificate. Even then, it must be recorded alongside their sex at birth. Basically, they're just saying they're going to record your sex as only your birth sex, not your current sex, and then they're going to write whether you're trans or not next to it. Like, absolutely terrible. Public services, hospitals, schools, and employers using this data would be legally obliged to misgender trans people without GRCs, gender recognition certificates, which only like 1 or 2% of trans people in the UK have been able to get because the system's so terrible. And it could affect healthcare, safeguarding legal protections. Trans people might be forced to disclose their private medical history. This is all tied up into privacy stuff. If this had passed, it would be likely in conflict with all kinds of European Court of Human Rights privacy things, which is originally why it wasn't put into the bill in the first place, and they've tried to add this amendment. But they debated it in the House of Commons, and this is where the Labour Party have power, and Keir Starmer's government, and Wes Streeting, and all those people. And we've had a bad run in the UK, you may have noticed, both in the courts and in Parliament, with them just doing horrible things against all the odds, where you're like, surely they're not going to rule this way because it would be in conflict with like every other law. Oh, they've ruled this way. Surely they're not going to try and ban trans healthcare despite all of the evidence. Oh, they've banned trans healthcare for kids despite all the evidence. And I was just feeling like we're just going to lose this one too. But it was actually pretty decisive. This was quite strongly opposed. Just less than 100 votes for it. Well over 300 votes against it. This is a big win for us. This is time to be relieved. Like, this would have been terrible, and it's not happening. This isn't like we've gained some rights. This isn't any of the horrific attacks on us in the past have been revoked or anything. So it's not like a real celebration. But thank fuck. Like, it just seemed like there's something every single day almost. Some new nonsense attack on our rights. And we're going to cover another one later. But there's just constantly things. And it's finally a major one has gone in our favour. Which is great. We actually have a clip here of them talking about it, where they say that the government, not only as they got rid of this amendment, they're saying they're not even going to bother trying passing anything like this, which is great. So let's just listen to this little clip. I haven't seen this yet, and I've been told it's quite good. It's the House of Commons. It's probably not going to be good, but like we'll see. Oh wait, the desktop audio is muted. Don't panic, everyone. I noticed before we had to watch the whole thing. I'll edit this bit out. Let's restart this. Okay, let's give it a listen.
New clauses 7 to 21, amendments 39.
Let's refresh it so it goes back to the exact timestamp. Okay. Third time lucky. How's the sound?
New clauses 7 to 21, amendments 39.
Okay. Sorry, everyone. Okay. Let's give it a listen.
New clauses 7 to 21, amendments 39 and 40. Let me start by saying that the government accepts the Supreme Court ruling, but it is paramount that we work through this judgment carefully, with sensitivity and in line with the law. We cannot simply flick a switch. We must work through the impacts of this judgment properly, recognising that this is broader than data used by digital verification services, and I reflect the comment made earlier by the Shadow Minister when he said data accuracy is important. This is equally... yes, of course.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way. Trans people and trans-led groups have been very concerned by the amendment tabled by members of the opposition, New Clause 21. They've rightfully described it as an attack on trans people's rights and their privacy. Can the Minister offer some reassurance that, as well as opposing this amendment today, the government will not seek to introduce similar legislation via other means in future?
Hear, hear. We're opposing the amendment when we're not intending to introduce similar legislation. As I said, data accuracy is important. This is equally true for any data used in a digital verification service. That is why the government is already engaged in an appropriate and balanced range of work on data standards and data accuracy. We're already developing data standards on the monitoring of diversity information, including sex, via the Data Standards Authority. Following a review, the Office for Statistics Regulation published updated guidance on collecting and reporting data and statistics about sex and gender identity last year, and all government departments are considering now how best to address the recommendations of the Sullivan Review, which we published. This is the first reason why we will not be supporting this new clause or the amendment today. Quite simply, we believe the concerns regarding the way in which public authorities process sex and gender data should be considered holistically, taking into account the effects of the Supreme Court ruling and the specific and particular requirements of public authorities. By contrast, the new clause and the amendment would undermine the work the government is already doing. In giving the Secretary of State a new regulatory rule, they would undermine the existing processes that ensure compliance with the UK's data protection. Secondly, the new clause is misplaced because the bill does not alter the evidence which can be relied upon to prove sex or gender. Indeed, it does not seek to alter any of the content of data used by digital verification services. Instead, the bill enables people to do digitally what they can presently do physically, and it is for organisations to consider what specific information they need to verify in their particular circumstances.
Maybe this isn't that exciting. What is good, it was really good to see this lady speak up. So I think... Is this Nadia Whittam, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, it was good to see someone speak up and be like, I've talked to trans people and they say this is bad. She's wearing a Trans History Week badge as well. We have some good politicians. We have some politicians who actually care and who have actually listened to trans people and who are like pushing our concerns. I'm not really a fan of what this guy's saying. I mean, he's like, we are welcoming the Supreme Court ruling and we're reviewing the Sullivan Review and all this kind of bullshit, gender critical nonsense. But it is good to hear them say this bill is not only not going to pass and they oppose it, but it's like conflicts with what they're already trying to do. So I don't know. I think that is a success and we should be relieved. We're just going to have to take all of these minor wins as best we can. You can't only be depressed when we lose and then be like, oh, this was nothing when we win. Like, I think however much stead you put into how bad this would have been if it passed, you've got to imagine that, and then like the magnitude of that horror, and then invert it and try and take that like celebratory energy, because we're not going to have this one big moment where all of a sudden trans people are liberated and everything's fine, like the end of Star Wars or something. We're going to grindily and slowly win out over decades. And you have to take the celebrations as they come. Yeah, this, if you want to read about this bill, I'll put this in the description. It would have been terrible. Yeah, basically just a rollback of legal recognition of trans people, and it was defeated. So, hooray. And well done to everyone who wrote to their MPs and applied pressure. Like, we just saw a politician standing up and being like, I've heard from trans people that they don't like this. How would she have known that if she hadn't have heard from trans people? And sure, you might have a terrible MP who's like, oh, I'm a conservative dickhead, I fought this bill in the first place, I support Wes Streeting or whatever. Maybe even Wes Streeting is your MP. If that's not the case, then applying pressure might get your MP to speak out. And if that is the case, when they see that there's loads of opposition and passing a certain bill becomes a like total nightmare because they keep getting loads of pressure from emails and from constituents and people want to talk to them about it, they will get sick of it. Very few of them are true believers. Lots of them don't like trans people and they want to get votes by hurting trans people. And when they realize it's a massive hassle, well, they'll give up. So everyone who wrote your MP a letter over this one, thank you very much. Amazing. Well done. Celebrate. Get some energy. And then we'll write to the next for the next thing. Hooray! We do actually have a next thing. I think we might discuss the next thing next, so that we can use some of this positive energy and seeing what we've done has made change and get some of that momentum up in order to do something about the next thing. So, the local medical committees, it's some kind of structure in the UK about how healthcare works. And they are voting on something this week. So you have to write this week before Friday. I think it's Friday, or like before tomorrow maybe. And they are trying to pass some horrible, ridiculous proposals, which would end up with trans people having much worse healthcare. So it's similar stuff to what we were just looking at with the data bill, where they want to just record trans people as their birth sex rather than their current sex, the legal sex, or anything else, which would be a change from what we do today. And you can't really see it. Let me zoom in, but it's actually quite awful, some of the suggestions here. So it says here, agenda to be discussed here is the conference expresses concern in offering our trans patients the most appropriate options for care and treatment whilst maintaining their medical records and requires. They want clear guidance. They want to. Interestingly, here it says support patients who wish to have their original details kept unredacted. Okay, maybe that's not something they can do at the moment. Clinical systems to include patient registration, biological sex, preferred gender pronoun, title for correspondence, and gender reassignment. I don't like how when they say biological sex, they just mean birth sex, but they're not. It's like they're not recording your chromosomes. They'll be like, oh, you can't change your chromosomes, but they're not recording chromosomes. That, like, if they all did chromosome tests and said, we want to record your chromosomes on our records, that'd be a totally different argument. But when they're saying biological sex here, what they mean is the genitals you had as a child. So what relevance does that have for your like healthcare? They'll make assumptions about your chromosomes, but more importantly, they'll make assumptions about your genitals, your gonads, your hormone levels, what organs you have, and all of those can change. And in some cases, for example, myself, none of those will match what they assume if they see male written on there, and that could affect your access to healthcare, the treatments you get offered, and like all kinds of stuff, the symptoms they're looking for, the doses of things they prescribe, and it could just put people in danger to have incorrect records. And this is like these kind of things. There's two major issues with this, and they kind of tie together more than maybe it first appears. Obviously, one is that the system that we have today just doesn't reflect the reality of human bodies and the variation in biology. And in one sense, any system you create is going to probably be a bit clunky, and it will have to be flexible. Obviously, the anti-trans people just want like a single box where it just says male or female based on your genitals at birth, and that is it. And every other thing, like pronouns and honorific and how they address you and your name and everything, should stem from that one thing. But that's like totally nonsense and doesn't reflect reality at all. But when you're making a system, even if you were like, right, we're just going to make it have male and female, but we also need to acknowledge that some people don't really fit into that. So maybe we'll have like a third option saying it's complicated or something, and allow people to change. Even then, that it doesn't really encompass the whole complexity of biology, but it at least allows some flexibility. But to force just birth sex and then to then have like a gender reassignment box just hides what's going on and removes some of the flexibility for the complexity that we have now. But it's also tied up within like privacy rights. If there's no reason, if you go, like there's this classic thing called trans broken arm syndrome. If you break your arm, there is absolutely no reason for the people seeing you to know whether you're trans or not. Like, it just does not matter. They're just going to give you a cast and tell you not to play tennis or whatever. They don't need to like comment on your hormones. But like a classic thing is, if they do know, sometimes you meet doctors and they'll be like, you've broken your arm. Well, the first thing you need to do is stop all your trans medication. I'm going to put a blocker on your thing so you can't access your medicine anymore. And like, that might sound insane, but that is a real thing. I've talked to people who have experienced something similar to that. So they like just having this record that comes up and straight away it says like your birth sex and then whether you're trans or not afterwards doesn't need to be there. If you're going in and you're talking about reproductive healthcare or sex-specific cancer, or not specific, cancer which is sexually dimorphic or something like that, you're talking about your hormone levels, for sure, then the person you're talking to is going to need to know your medical history. But not every piece of your medical history is relevant to every single discussion you have with your doctor. Like when I go in for an asthma review, they don't need to know I'm trans or not. The person I'm talking to doesn't need to know. And sometimes when they do know, I'm going to get worse healthcare. So I think it's important to like emphasize these two parts, the privacy side and they're trying to make a system which doesn't really encompass people already worse. But then, so they've got like these different local bodies offering what they want. And one down here says, they want to recognize the importance of being allowed to accurately describe a patient's biological sex to offer them the most appropriate options for care and treatment, and calls on the UK government to grant legal protection for doctors who refer to patients by their biological sex, male XY or female XX, regardless of how a patient chooses to identify, without fear of litigation. So this is obviously some gender critical bullshit where they want to call you a man, and then when you complain, they want to be like legally protected from any level of complaint, however abusive they are. So this would be pretty crappy. Like this this is why the whole thing is just kind of nonsense. I just don't really know how this is holding up when all the people discussing this are doctors. When they say, but by their biological sex, XY or XX, who have they tested for this? I'm sure there are a bunch of people in the UK who have had their chromosomes tested, and it's like on record with the NHS. I haven't. I don't know anyone who has, in my like personal life. Where is this coming from? Your biological sex, what they actually mean, your birth sex, is literally they looked at your genitals when you were a kid and then they wrote it down. And then they guess your chromosomes, and they're right 99, 98, 95, whatever % of the time. So when they're talking about this, like, there must be a bunch of doctors being like, well, that doesn't quite match up though, does it? Even if they're not invested in trans people, they must know, they study this stuff. Anyway, I wrote a letter to, you can write, if you're in the UK, you can write to your local body and tell them not to vote for this. So I'll show you the letter that I've written. We're not going to be able to get it on one screen very easily. Let me see what I can do. I might be able to just get the email up. Gotta remember to edit this bit out as well. Sorry everyone, just give me a second. Oh, it's here. No, we don't want to put a notepad, do we? Because we won't be able to see. Or maybe we'll be able to see. Let's have a look. Be discussing Pokemon on there. Oh, that's terrible. Sorry, everyone. Can you make the font bigger on Notepad? I don't have Word. Man, I've never really done this before on this. Oh, we can make it bigger. That's good. Okay, so this is a letter that I wrote to my LMC, Local Medical Committee. Hello, I'm a trans woman who lives in Bristol. I'm writing to strongly oppose the motion to record birth sex as biological sex on patient records. I, along with the majority of trans people I've spoken with, oppose this for two main reasons. Firstly, it is a violation of our privacy and dignity, and secondly, it is factually false to conflate birth sex and current sex, which will lead to poor healthcare decisions. There is no medical benefit to listing birth sex, and it's misleading to use birth sex as biological sex. As a woman who has had normal female hormone levels for over a decade and who has none of the organs typically associated with male bodies, recording me as male could cause practitioners to make healthcare decisions based on a body that I do not have. It could lead us to miss out on vital screenings such as breast cancer screenings, and could lead to incorrect dosing or interpreting of symptoms. Trans and intersex people's bodies do not fit into the standard two-category system that most others do. But if we are forced to fit into that system, then our current sex, what our actual bodies are like today, is far more indicative and safe to use than birth sex, which only relates to what I was like over 30 years ago. 30. I have personally experienced prejudice in a medical setting where I revealed that I was trans for an unrelated condition, and I do not want to face that again. It put me off going to the doctor for years, which meant I missed out on checkups and treatment for asthma. It has been a long, long time since anyone called me Mr. or referred to me as a man, but I fear that incorrectly recording our biological sex on records will lead to this again. It feels invasive and unnecessary. I also believe that it is a violation of our legal right to private life guaranteed by the European Court of Human Rights. Please oppose this motion. It could be very harmful to trans people. We already struggle with fair access to both trans healthcare and general healthcare. There are so many attacks on our privacy and bodies at the moment. This motion is dangerous and unnecessary. Thanks for reading my letter. If you want to write something similar, there's only 2 topics you need to cover. You could just do 1 sentence. I've really fleshed it out here. You could just be like, please vote against this bill. I think it's bad for trans people's privacy, and I think it's factually incorrect. Thanks for reading my letter. Send. Just do it now. Like, we've just discussed it. It's fresh in your mind. How you can find out where you need to send it, if you go onto my Blue Sky, I just posted about this, but You can also go to the BMA website, and they have here local medical committees, and you can just see your region and get their email address, like quite easily. So that's it's worth doing. Please have a look. And then maybe next week we can discuss another thing where we're going to call it a win because they proposed something horrible and then it didn't happen. I have also, I think I tweeted out about someone who had written another, oh good, who's this retweeting Warhammer onto my timeline? Warhammer City over there. It's just, that's the problem with following a bunch of trans women, is you end up with loads of Warhammer on your timeline. I'm pretty sure so someone had written a letter. Oh, it was, God, I shouldn't be putting up. There you go. It was Philippa East, who is a letter writing machine. She is a cis woman, as far as I understand, and she has written all kinds of letters. Okay. Anyway, I'll find it and I'll tweet it out again. There are various templates. So yeah, write your letter. Let's do it. Let's have a look at what we're going to talk about next. Just as a little interlude. I was looking at this. This is completely petty and completely meaningless, okay? So I mean, this is one of the things that I kind of care about, but I don't really care about. It's just one of those things where you go and, you know, when like you're feeling a bit crap, so you go and look at the Tesla share price just to see it go down. I haven't done that in a little while. It's just a little bit satisfying to see Elon Musk getting less rich. Like there's just quite a satisfying graph. Like it doesn't really matter. Unfortunately, this like slope down has kind of leveled out. It doesn't really matter to me, but if it goes down, then I'm going to feel good about it. In a similar vein, to not really caring, but sometimes it's good. I just had a look at comparing me to some of the gender critical channels on YouTube, and Gremlin has had a lot more subscribers than me for quite a while, but we've been doing a bit better on this channel recently. So if you're watching and you're not subscribed, you don't have to subscribe for me. You should subscribe in order to get us. Oh, I've cut the edge off. In order to get us over the line, to overtake Gremlin Hand. What we on here? We're only 3,000 away. That's totally achievable. I mean, we've got like, we gained basically 3,000 in the last month, so like and subscribe. It's interesting. This is Social Blade. Like, I don't know. Social Blade's good if you're addicted to social media and you like numbers and graphs, but otherwise it's completely meaningless. They give you all these things like Social Blade rank. Like what the fuck is Social Blade rank? I have absolutely no idea. I am apparently 888,984th, and Graham is 1 millionth and something. Who knows what that number is? Some of my things are higher, some of his things are higher. Who knows? But it's good to look at graphs sometimes, and that's quite an easy graph. Anyway, if he suddenly has another thing because his new sitcom is terrible and everyone wants to come and see him failing, then, you know, who cares? It's not really that important. But if I overtake him, I'm definitely going to be smug about it. So, yeah, just something a bit meaningless. Someone saying Elon Musk's next Tesla project will be a Lego truck. No, he probably thinks Lego is woke. He probably hates Lego. It's like, did you see them all discussing all of the fucking cringe Twitter main characters like Elon Musk and Ian Miles Chong and stuff, saying that they were refusing to play Grand Theft Auto because they didn't want to shoot police in the game. It's just so cringe. Yeah, they probably hate Lego. They probably don't like any kind of fun. You're discussing my setup. What? I have a HP Omen with a GeForce RTX. I don't know what that is. I can just see it glowing through. I had a computer, and rendering videos took it like all night, and I was like, I'm just gonna get a computer which can render videos. And I just was like, Google computer that renders videos. This come up as a good option, and I just bought it with the proceeds from my last year's worth of YouTube. So it was an investment. It was like a investing back into streaming so that I could release videos quicker. Yeah, I did see the Grand Theft Auto trailer. I'm not a gamer. I'm not particularly. I don't get like the urge to drive around and shoot people in computer games or whatever. But I have played Grand Theft Auto. I played 1 and 2, one of the first ones, whatever it was, where it's like top down and you go around shooting people. That was fine. And then I played Grand Theft Auto 3 on the PlayStation 2 at my friend's house a bit. That was quite cool. You just like drive around and run people over. I don't know. It's fine. But I haven't played any of the ones since. But the trailer looked quite good. I watched it because I saw them all complaining it was woke, and I was like, oh god, what is it? I think the reason they all hate it is because it had a woman in it, and she seemed like cool. So maybe that's why I thought it was cool, because it had like a kind of cool woman in it. Anyway, I'm not particularly the person to listen to about gaming opinions. So whatever your opinion is, it's probably better than mine. Let's cover some more good news, because there is more good news. We're barely even covered bad news yet. We've got one thing looming, which isn't good, but we can do something about it. We've covered one bit of good news, and now we're going to have a second bit of good news before I've even talked about any gender critical bullshit. Yeah, I am spoiling you. It's good. So this is actually quite a big deal. I'm actually pretty hype about this. So we've got a bunch of letters from people in various scientific professions. So here we have a letter from high-profile biologists, an open letter written to the Minister for Women's Inequalities. And their letter is titled, Biology is Not Binary, a letter from biologists, doctors, and other experts to Bridget Phillipson, the Minister for Women and Equalities. It's actually a pretty good letter. It's not that long, so I think we'll just go through it. They're saying, we're writing to you in your capacity as Minister for Women and Equalities with respect to the recent EHRC interim update. So this is, the EHRC is a group that I've ranted about quite a lot. It's the government's like human rights organization, and it's led by Baroness Falconer, who hates trans people. And they basically trying to ban all trans women and all trans men and all non-binary people basically from all men's and women's spaces. But also it's all full of this like biological sex, gender critical speak, biological man who identifies as a woman or whatever. Anyway, they say, in light of the recent Supreme Court ruling, we are writing to you to express deep concern with these developments and request that the government take action to restore the rights of trans and non-binary individuals to public spaces. The Supreme Court determined that Equality Act provisions with respect to single-sex spaces should be made on biological sex. Like biological sex, the term biological woman and biological man used by the EHRC and others are often not used as scientific terms but political ones. To our knowledge, neither the court nor the EHRC has attempted to define biological sex. This is, again, this has been signed by a whole bunch of high-profile like professors and lecturers and biologists at major universities and stuff. This is what I personally have wanted for so long. I'm super hype about this one, guys. the scientists have shown up in the UK. We've seen letters like this from the USA. It's just good to have some British ones too. Anyway, they say, where did we get to? The term biological sex has been used to sort all people into one of two groups. However, a strict binary categorization is an oversimplification. An individual's sex is in fact made up of a collection of characteristics. Oh, I've been saying this for so long. So good. Including, what's the list? External genitalia, secondary sex characteristics, gonads, chromosomes, and hormones, and may be better described as bimodal. Each of these traits can vary beyond two categories and may or may not coincide with other measures of sex within the same individual. Thus, a binary, immutable model of sex is not capable of capturing biological diversity present in human populations, and as a result, it is unsafe basis for policy. Mate, oh, it's so good. I almost just feel like I'm reading what I've been saying. And it's kind of reassuring when I'm like doing all this. I'm a skeptic and I just believe in the science, and I actually think sex is a mutable bimodal distribution made up of multiple characteristics, including the following. And then finally, the scientists get in gear and they just say the same fucking thing, and it's like so good. The medical and scientific community has accepted for some time that there is significant complexity in this area. Recently, both doctors and scientists, including Nobel laureates, have raised concerns about the impact of this oversimplification on human rights. We present a brief summary to explain this below. Mate, it's just so good. I am going to read all this because I'm enjoying it. So even if you're all like, God, what is this science bullshit? It's good science bullshit. Sex characteristics observed at birth, for example, external genitalia, are determined by a range of factors. The presence of the SRY gene on the Y chromosome usually leads to the development of male characteristics during development, though this is not always the case, such as for some individuals with androgen insensitivity syndrome, born with XY chromosomes. Binary categorizations at birth are simplified rules and do not precisely capture biological variation, such as in differences of sexual development. This is sourced throughout, by the way. They've got a whole bunch of references at the bottom. Like a load of papers backing up all of the claims they're making. Oh, it's so good. Sorry, I'm having a good time. Beyond this, sex is not an immutable characteristic. Primary and secondary sex characteristics change during life and through medical interventions. As part of medical transition, many trans people undergo surgery which alters external genitalia and other bodily features, and as such, anatomy is neither binary nor fixed. Although some may argue that these are just rare exceptions, these populations together are those most affected by recent developments and therefore should not be ignored when developing policy and law. Many cis individuals also undergo procedures that change sex characteristics. Yes, they do. Hormones, gene expression, and physiology are not binary. Gonadal steroids, such as estrogen, affect characteristics such as muscle and connective tissue, fat distribution, breast and hair growth, bone density, immunity, lung physiology, and more. Mate, it's the full list of flipping dunks on gender criticals. When they say something's binary, you're like, oh yeah? What about this, mate? Many trans people take hormones during medical transition, and this process is generally responsible for extensive biological changes. Cells responsive to hormones, such as estrogen, will undergo changes on exposure, mediated by regulation of transcription. This means that hormones act like messages to the cells, causing them to undergo changes to functionality. Hormones also induce epigenetic modification. This is a normal biological process which causes DNA to chemically and structurally be modified, changing the behavior of cells and the way in which they work to coordinate bodily functions. I'm so hype about this. This is like, I mean, it's better than I could have ever said it. This is what happens when experts get involved rather than just some knobhead like me who just happens to have read all of the Wikipedia pages. Like the classic transphobe thing to say is sex is in every cell of your body, and that little sentence is just wrong on so many like so many levels. Like the first most obvious level to me, as someone who isn't an expert in epigenetics, is that your sex chromosomes aren't in every cell of your body. In fact, most of the cells in your body, fun fact, most of the cells in your body aren't human cells. They're actually bacteria cells. But of the human cells in your body, most of them, by number and volume, I think, are red blood cells, which don't have a nucleus, so they don't have a chromosomes in at all. So of your remaining cells, which is like 10% or something of the cells in your body, they have sex chromosomes. And so the person's like, oh, it's in every cell of your body. You mean it's in 10% of the cells of your body at most? But also, chromosomes aren't the only thing in your DNA. Like, your DNA has a crazy amount of stuff in it. And there's a whole bunch of it which is sexually dimorphic, which means like there's some difference between the typical man and the typical woman on average. And so much of that stuff changes, extensive biological changes, because of hormones. Hormones are like one of the most important things in sexual development and in how your body functions. And like every single person has the full DNA information to create a human of either sex or any combination of sex characteristics. And you're a combination of which genes turn other genes on, and also how hormones influence how genes turn on, decides in which way you'll develop. I mean, that's the only reason that transition works in the first place, because like when trans people take hormones and it changes their actual features, like you basically go through a second puberty. For example, for trans women, they grow breasts and they get softer skin and their bone density changes and all kinds of things. That wouldn't happen if humans were like totally separate species, basically, where you had like male DNA and female DNA and they were just totally different and unrelated to each other and you can't change them and it's immutable. Hormones wouldn't do anything because you wouldn't have the information for your body to become a male body or a female body or somewhere in between, a combination of that just wouldn't be in that DNA. But actually it is there, and it's more like you've got all the instructions to make basically any type of human, and then something comes along and reads all the instructions and tells your body what to do, and then if at some point it changes how it reads the instructions, then it just does something else. Anyway, as a result, trans people who choose to medically transition undergo significant medically important changes that, if not acknowledged, can lead to clinical harm. For example, a trans woman taking estrogen, when the experts have come out with them spelling estrogen with an O rather than an E. Get wrecked, Americans. This is how you're meant to spell it. Trans women taking estrogen for a short period of time would experience a reduction in her hemoglobin level. To use birth sex reference ranges for blood tests in this case would be inappropriate. Interpretation of results with a potential for misdiagnosis, over-investigation, and harm. This is just what I was talking about in that letter that I wrote to the LMC. Such medical subtleties demonstrate that individualized approaches are required rather than arbitrary imposed binaries. Similar complexities are also reflected in cis populations. For example, there can be significant hormonally mediated differences in medication metabolism and response pre- and post-menopause. Mate, this is just so good. It's like a better written summary of everything I've argued in the last 10 years. Statements that biological sex is binary are only approximately accurate in the context of reproduction or fertility, which are largely irrelevant to daily life and not a good basis for determining access to toilets or other spaces. Trans and non-binary and gender non-conforming cis people, or those who may be cis but perceived to fall into these two groups, may be at risk of exclusion, health inequality, harassment and violence in society due to employment of simplistic models and biological essentialism. We're concerned the recent ruling and the government's adoption of the EHSC interim update does not advance women's rights, but introduces new risks for many members of our society, including cis women. We call upon the government, EHRC, media and other relevant organisations to stop the misuse of overly simplistic binary models to further political causes that may target vulnerable people. Policy and legislation in general should be informed by accurate, complete evidence and stakeholder engagement. We caution that policy based on scientific misconceptions or oversimplifications, such as the EHRC interim update, could lead to serious harm to real individuals in public spaces, medical contexts, and many other areas of life. Although the government is not directly responsible for the EHRC guidance or the recent Supreme Court ruling, we request that you take urgent action to restore the rights of trans people and non-binary people to access to toilets and other spaces essential to daily life. Signed, a whole fucking bunch of experts in biology. There are loads of them. That's not all, though. They are presumably the ones who are in the biology field, maybe a bit more notable. No offense to the ones low down. Then we get the references. A whole bunch of references. Then we get a whole load of other signatures, like loads of other doctors and experts and PhDs, and there are a lot of... It's just so good to see. And like one of the... Wait, they're still going. Look at this. Look at it. Look at how many people have come out. Not just... I was going to say not people, biologists. Not real people. Just biologist-identified females. No. There's... Man... There are so many people. These are experts in this field who are knowledgeable, who were happy to put their name to this letter, which isn't just... I mean, this is politically pro-trans. They have this whole section at the end about making sure trans and non-binary people have access to spaces. That's obviously a pro-trans message, and it's good to see people putting their name to that. Maybe that's the bigger story, but personally, as a flipping nerd who spends all their time arguing about biology and science and stuff, and pointing out that the gender critical position isn't just horrible, like so many people are, oh, you need to be kinder to trans people. No, yes, please. But also, it is wrong. What they're saying is factually wrong. And it's just so good to see loads of experts saying it. And when you, like, sometimes you get letters from gender criticals. I remember there was this time when they were going through their little letters to the MP phase, and there'll be a new article in the Times every single week, and it'd be like, lesbians write a letter condemning trans people, and the next week it'd be like, biologists write a letter condemning trans people. And they would have like 11 signatures, and it would be the same 11 people every week. When I scroll down this list of people, some of them I recognize the names. Most of them I'm like, oh, that's a new person. Oh, that's a new person. Because I think the Supreme Court ruling woke up a lot of people, and they're like, wow, okay, trans rights are maybe worse than we thought in this country, or they are now. We should do something about it. And sure, we can all be annoyed that people didn't notice sooner, and we've been talking about it for 10 years or whatever. But doesn't matter. All that matters is people are on the right page now, and all these amazing people were prepared to speak up for us in a scientific way. Amazing. Thank you to the biologist community. I genuinely really appreciate it. But it's not just the biologists. Mate, this is just so good. Okay. So the biologists were like, okay, the biology's wrong. Get fucked. Do you know who else said that? The feminists. So here's another letter. Starting with this cringe sentence. We are non-trans feminist academics and educators. Could have said the word cis there, guys. But, you know, I understand you're trying to write it for the wider public. This letter isn't that long either. Maybe I will read out this letter. How are we feeling for energy-wise, guys? Do we want to hear another letter? Do you want to hear me just reading things off the screen? This is also, like, there is a whole bunch of feminists, academics here. And, like, constantly, again, the Times will be like, feminists speak out. And then it'll be, like, a picture of three women, like Maya Forstater and Caroline Fisk and the other one. And then you're like, oh, hang on. What was the last article that Caroline Fisk wrote? Oh, the gender pay gap should be bigger. Oh, what's Maya Forstater famous for? Literally nothing apart from campaigning against trans people's rights. So not actual feminists in any sense, just conservative women, conservatives who happen to be women. Here is a bunch of fucking academics, like actual real practicing feminists who are feminists in the wild and whose the job is to feminist. A whole bunch of them. So again, highlighting, I guess, the more prominent people who wrote it here. And then there is a lot of people who have signed this. The list just keeps going. Okay, we're going to read the letter. Just look at this. Wait, 12 of 72? Just look at this. This is insane. Look at all these doctors and professors. Are we going to clear? I haven't looked at this yet. I haven't looked to see how many there are. Mate, we're only like halfway down. Over 1,000. Look, even just, we're past 1,200 here, and we're still getting like professors at major universities. Just incredible. Look at this. Just insane. Over 2,000. What have we got here? We just had a new title. International. Okay, so just from the UK, we had currently, you can still sign these letters, by the way. If you're watching this and you're a feminist academic or you're a biologist academic, and you're not on this list, you can be. I think both. I'll put these in description. We've already got nearly 2,400 people. Like, can you imagine the biggest ever like gender critical protest? They had like maybe 200 people, including media and people like celebrities like Graham Linehan who travel all around for it, not just in one place. They had maybe 200 people. We've got over 2,300 cis feminist academics. Like, I didn't even know there were that many like practice in the UK. Incredible. Right, let's read this out. We are non-trans feminist academics and educators. We write in support of trans rights, trans well-being, and trans inclusion. The harmful Supreme Court ruling states that women and men are defined by their biology and their birth sex. The extreme interpretation of this ruling by the Equality and Human Rights Commission suggests that trans women and trans men should be restricted in their access to workplaces, schools, sports, and services, excluding trans people from using facilities for their gender. Anti-trans campaigners say they want to exclude trans women from women's spaces in order to protect cis women. We do not need protection from trans people. We need action against sexual harassment, rape, domestic violence, and everyday sexism. We need policies that guarantee women get equal pay for their work, affordable childcare, and the eradication of childbirth-related deaths. And we need the state to stop the violence that trans people face at the hands of cis men and cis women. Starting off strong, brutal. This is amazing. I'm feeling really energized by this, guys. I hope you all are. It's amazing to see. We need to stand together in defense of everyone's bodily autonomy, gender expression, reproductive rights, and individual freedoms. We cannot have a state or society that checks people's genitals when they go to the toilet, go to work or school, play sports, access healthcare, or use facilities. We unequivocally reject the idea that women can be... God, it's just such a good sentence. We unequivocally reject the idea that women can be defined by their biology, a claim which is neither feminist nor scientific. For centuries, women have fought for their right to do, wear, and be what they want to be. It is essentialist and patriarchal to assert that body, genes, chromosomes, and reproductive capacity make women or men. Feminism teaches us that our bodies do not determine our destiny, and nor should legislation, policies, or society's expectations. Trans people are being used as scapegoats and a distraction from the problems that we face in the society. This is an attack on trans people and further inflame transphobia. When the Supreme Court clarifies what a woman is, is in quotes, brutal. They enforce the idea that all women need to conform to a singular, racialized, ableist model of femininity. Perfection. We want feminism to be vibrant and intersectional. Trans and non-binary people are part of us. We support all people to be free and safe to express themselves without fear, prejudice, or harm. As educators and academics, we have a duty to care. We must strive to make education a safer, more inclusive, and equitable space for everyone. We stand with our trans and non-binary colleagues and students. We fight for everyone's right to be educators and educated without prejudice or harm. We are not victims. We welcome trans people. We demand trans people are able to live their lives safely with dignity. We believe that trans women are women, trans men are men. The Supreme Court ruling is not a victory for feminism. It is a victory for patriarchy. And when the patriarchy wins, everybody loses. This ruling does not speak for us, not in our name. Incredible. This is good to see. So I can see people in comments saying, will this do any impact to change things? I think that change in society and like civil rights movements are made up from loads of things. When you think back about, for example, women trying to get the right to vote, the first thing you think of are the suffragettes. And the suffragettes were like the extremist wing of the women's rights, the women's right to vote movement. And there were a lot of women who wanted the right to vote in those times who didn't like the suffragettes because they did fucking mental stuff. They invented the mail bomb. They threw an axe at the Prime Minister. They ran in front of the King's horse and one of them died. Loads of them went to jail. They did crazy stuff. And the name suffragettes was actually like a mocking name made by the Daily Mail, because the main group fighting for women's right to vote were the suffragists, who were trying to do it within the system and like lobby the men in charge to allow them to vote. To say that any one action or any one subgroup of people campaigning for it were responsible for the right to vote, I think would just be missing the point. They needed all of the things. And I'm not saying that throwing an axe at the Prime Minister is something that I support at all. But some actions taken by the suffragettes, which were a bit more flashy and attention-grabbing and stuff, probably did contribute to women get the right to vote. And when you look back now, I think lots of people in our time will say, well, it's, the suffragettes were good. They were fighting for the right thing. Some of the stuff they did was mental and actually bad. But in general, they were fighting for the right thing. And the other groups you don't really hear about, but that doesn't mean that they also didn't contribute. And it's a similar thing with the civil rights movement in the USA. When black people were fighting for rights and the end to segregation, you had the classic Martin Luther King way, where he was trying to, he was very radical, but he was trying to, peacefully, protest and make a civil argument for everyone to have the same rights. And then there was more extreme groups, and you have this whole range of things. But for both of those cases, it wasn't just those people involved. Sure, they were the ones who inevitably end up leading it and should lead it. Like, when women want rights, they're the ones who should be at the top being listened to. But it also required allies in loads of groups. They needed some men to listen and be on their side. Black people needed the support of some white people. And it's good that those groups did also contribute and were allies. And the thing is that this argument that women shouldn't have rights, black people shouldn't have rights, trans people shouldn't have rights, whatever, is always presented in the same way by the people in power. Like, oh, this is bad for everyone. We can't let these people have rights. It's bad for women and children. It's the classic. It's against God's will. It's against nature. It's against feminism. It's against whatever. And having the experts in those fields speak out is just another piece of the puzzle. At the moment, in the UK, probably the general consensus is that the gender criticals are on the side of biology. That's definitely what the media says, and it's definitely what Keir Starmer and the knobheads like that are saying. And they're wrong. And seeing hundreds of biologists being like, actually, this is false, and it's a letter they receive. Now they know that the majority of biologists oppose what they believe or what they're saying, and that makes it a little bit more difficult to say. And then they also get a letter from the feminists, and where they've been arguing that actually we believe in biology and we believe in women's rights, and they're like, oh, well, all the people who are experts in biology and women's rights actually disagree with this. So now when I say this, it's a little bit more hollow and it's harder for me to back up. And people will know about this. Like, there's probably a bunch of you watching this right now, and this is the first you've heard of any of this, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. It's going to take you a while to process. But now you will know going forwards that biologists and feminists generally, or lots of them, thousands of them, major ones at major universities with real qualifications, don't agree with the transphobic position. So maybe the transphobic position has other things. You know, maybe that, not even calling it transphobic, maybe the anti-trans position has other things. But what it doesn't have is the mainstream biological backing or the mainstream feminist backing. And slowly those things chip away, and that's how society changes its view over time. I don't think either of these letters will come out and the Labour government will be like, oh shit, 1,000 biologists said we're wrong. Right, we're changing course. That isn't how politics works. What is needed is hundreds of things from all different angles, sustained constantly over time, and to keep talking about them. We can't just have this letter come out and then just be like, cool, done that, next. Remember that time when like thousands of biologists told you to fuck off? Yeah, okay. Well, they're doing it again. But also remember that other time. Like, so I keep referring to the ones that like all the American biologists and experts wrote about. It's worth bringing these things up. So, is this making change? Yes. And also, another change it's making me pretty hype. I feel like, I almost feel, right, okay. So in 2020, when J.K. Rowling came out as transphobic, Graham Linehan had a little, like, on his knees praying to the gods moment, which I don't know if he described it as it or one of his goons described it as a bit like in Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, where like they're having a horrible fight in Helm's Deep and they're keeping back the Uruk-hai, and then all of a sudden at dawn, Gandalf arrives and saves the day and marches down the hill, and the cavalry's arrived, and finally we're saved. Like, we're in our darkest hour and we're saved. And that's how he described J.K. Rowling turning up. And that is because gender criticals only care about authority and hierarchy, and it's just a conservative position. So when a billionaire shows up, finally, like, common sense has arrived. We are free. Everyone, like, this is our moment. This is our, like, vindication moment. I kind of feel like that when experts come out. Like, I'm less interested in authorities. It would be great if the prime minister, the president, the king, the pope, whoever was like, oh yeah, well, we support trans rights now. That would be great. But way more important to me are the experts saying it, because that's like, I'm not an expert, so I'm just following the scientific position. Like, that's how I live my life. But yeah, it's giving me energy and confidence knowing that I'm on the right track and that all of these experts are also pushing for the same thing, and hopefully it gives you energy too. So I think that these things all add up. They're all small, pieces of the puzzle. But it's not just the biologists. It's not just the feminists. It's the historians too. Do we want to read the historian letter? It's not that long. The historians also showed up in fucking huge numbers. Again, like hundreds and hundreds of people. That's incredible. How many have we got in this one? Nearly 1,000. Well, okay, 700. Oh no, wait, 7/10 of the way to 1,000. Of historians. Again, experts in history. Like, as these these end up being like softer sciences. Biology is like a hard science because you can measure things, like directly, empirically. You can measure things in history and you can measure things in feminism, but people get all like, oh, it's just soft sciences. We're getting a range of sciences here. and they're all pointing in a similar direction, which is a good sign that they are more likely to be correct. If like the study of history and the study of biology were like vehemently opposed in their way of view of how the world works, you might be a little bit like, sounds a bit weird actually. Even though they're different fields, they should, like, the pursuit of science is trying to make a model of the world to understand how the world works. So you would hope that all the different sciences coming from different angles would actually end up sort of creating the same model, like supermodel, altogether. And if they weren't, it'd be a bit surprising or suspicious. But in this case, it seems like they are. Someone saying the historian's getting with the times. Yeah. True. What are we saying here? I'll link all of these. Don't worry. Oh yeah, I need to look at super chats after this as well. Do I want to read more? What are we saying, team? Do we want to hear it? Yeah, it is annoying how you can see why like some sciences get like hand waved away as soft sciences. In physics, you can make like a mathematical prediction with insane precision and measure it and just be right. And it's like, well, now we know this is a fact. And in like psychology, because humans are so much more complicated than like electrons, you can't make a model which accurately predicts human behavior to like 500 decimal places or whatever. You just cannot do that. And so models are always going to have to be looser with smaller sample sizes. And then it's just going to be a weaker prediction. But I think this like term soft sciences is probably political as much as well. In that it's like, oh well, these ones are ones we don't want to listen to, so we're going to hand wave them away. Right, we're reading it. I've seen a bunch of people saying yes, no one said no, so get fucked anyone who didn't want to read it. We're reading this out. And then maybe there's another one. We'll see. But I think this is good. I think this is great to hear. And if you're a history person, you're going to be hype over this. So, dear members of Parliament, as historians, we write to you today to express our alarm and opposition to the attacks on the LGBT community emanating from the current government. Years of hostility escalating sharply in the aftermath of the Supreme Court ruling ominously recall the darkest moments of oppression of queer and trans people in the UK. To avoid repeating mistakes that led to widespread discrimination and violence in the past, you must act to stop these attacks now. The history of state oppression of queer people in the UK is, unfortunately, a long one. From centuries of criminalisation of sex between men, through NHS-sanctioned conversion therapy practiced against queer, trans and gender non-conforming people, and the continued practices of medically unnecessary interventions on infants born with variations of sex characteristics, to the concept of homosexuality as a pretended family relationship in the infamous Section 28 of the 1988 Local Government Act, which was an amendment to a bill that was going through. Anyway, LGBT people have seldom enjoyed unharassed existence in the UK. God, so grim. The state of it. Specifically, trans people's rights and recognition has proved particularly irksome for the British... Irksome's a good word. For the British legal and political establishment. Being trans was reclassified from a physical condition to a mental illness in 1969, resulting in trans people's substantive civil liberties being removed in 1970 by Corbett v. Corbett. That legal decision, which equated biological constitution at birth with true sex, was exposed in 2001 as a circular argument supported by no reasoning, evidence, or principle or policy save that of trans exclusion. In 2002, the UK government acknowledged that formally that being trans is not a mental illness, effectively reinstating its medical identity as a naturally occurring physical variation. Meanwhile, debates during committee stages of the Sex Discrimination Act in 1975 showed the government's intention had been to ensure that trans people were protected from discrimination under whatever sex they have legally changed to. This intention was achieved finally by the Gender Recognition Act. Now, however, that progress has been rolled back by a legal decision which is unsupported and factitious. God, sorry, I'm one of those idiot streamers who can't read words. As that which disenfranchised trans people in 1970. Mate, I'm going to look at. I'm suspicious that I'm reading this word wrong. Factish. Okay. That's just a word I don't know. I'm just stupid. Sorry, guys. We need the literature people to come out and sign a letter in favor of trans rights and use words like this. Anyway. Now, however, that progress has been rolled back by a legal decision which is as unsupported and factitious as which disenfranchised trans people in 1970. The recently published interim update on single-sex bases from the EHRC represents an unprecedented attack on the freedom and safety of LGBT people in the UK. Never has a government agency sought to effectively ban an entire class of people from using public toilets and changing rooms. Never has a UK government agency arrogated the power to define who can and cannot be members of gay and lesbian groups and sought to require those organisations to exclude a specific class of people as a matter of course. These rules replicate and in many ways surpass the worst excesses of state discrimination against gender and sexual minorities in decades past. The EHRC's actions are only the latest in a string of hostile actions taken by the government against trans people, non-binary and intersex people. These actions have chilling historical precedents. Recent changes to schools' guidance erased and demeaned the existence of trans people in ways unmistakably redolent. Man, whoever wrote this has got a fucking PhD in words in it. Redolent. I've never even heard the word redolent before. My goodness. I'm Googling it. I'm sure it's... Oh, you can work out what it means in the context. Strongly reminiscent of... This is why historians should be banned. Not because it's a soft science or whatever. Because they're flipping using long words. Probably read this in a book, mate. Disgusting. Of Section 28. Exclusions of trans people from meaningful input to reforms of trans healthcare during and in the wake of the widely criticised Cass Review record the shameful exercises of gatekeeping and promotion of cures for homosexuality in the 50s. This is just like... It's great to read this from experts in history when it is just the stuff that I have been saying. And I'm not saying, oh, I was right all along. I'm actually the real expert. The information that I personally have picked up isn't much different to what you will find any of the other mainstream trans rights activists saying. And the reason we're all saying it is because we all learn from each other. And when someone says something, they'll be like, oh, here's a thing. And you're like, oh, is that true? And you look it up. And it's not true and you never repeat it. Or it is true and you're like, oh, it's a thing I've learned. And then it stops being a thing you say. And then 5 years later you're saying it and someone's like, what's the evidence for that? And you're like, I need to go and find the paper because I can't remember because I learned this 5 years ago and I don't have the information off the top of my head. And then you read something written by experts with a load of sources in and they're saying the same things and you're like, great, I wasn't crazy. The ignoring of trans voices and lived experience by both the Supreme Court and the EHRC reflect the same pattern, with further restrictions of trans people's access to healthcare now being threatened. Meanwhile, updated regulations on prison accommodation, sports participation, and statistical data collection have all targeted trans people's right to exist as trans people in ways that echo the ugliest episodes of sectarian, racial, and sexual discrimination against other minority groups in this country's history. Like, it just makes you feel more sane hearing people say this. Like, you're not going mad. Actually, things are bad. And it is comparable to other things. That all this has transpired under the auspices of Labour government one that apparently prides itself in commitment to human rights and equality, is outrageous. The party that passed the Equality Act now threatens to undermine its very purpose on the basis of the Supreme Court's scientifically and historically illiterate definition of biological sex. And the EHSE's egregious overreach of authority. The spurious claim... Man, this masterpiece, this letter. The spurious claim that these attacks on trans people are justified in the name of protecting women flies in the face of generations of feminist activism and historical scholarship. Marginalizing and demonizing trans people does nothing to protect women. Indeed, history shows gender non-conforming cisgender women who do not conform to stereotypes of femininity, butch lesbians and intersex women of color, are the earliest and easiest targets during periods of rigidly enforced gender norms. Historians seldom speak in absolutes. This government's disregard for trans people's safety, dignity, and civil rights tempts us to make an exception. This is the best letter so far. No government orchestrates persecution against a minority group, as this government aims to, will be looked on kindly by history. The violence and discrimination visited on trans people by the proposed EHRC guidance, alongside the other policies already enforced, will indelibly stain those who enable it, just as the legacy of Section 28 did. Thankfully, it's not too late. We implore you to intervene now, to speak out in public support of trans rights, and to ask questions in Parliament, interrogating the EHRC, and refuse to ratify their dubious proposals. I meet with trans community organisations that have self and been ignored by those in power. The mistakes of the past need not be repeated. Sincerely, 700 fucking historians with way too big vocabulary. Yeah, I will be providing links. Amazing. But it's not just the biologists. It's not just the feminists. It's not just the historians. Guess who's next? You're not going to get it. The geographers! I gotta admit that I was ignorant and stupid when I read this, and I was like, geography? Just colouring in maps, innit? Geography isn't just the study of land formations. It's also the study of society and societies, how they shape their surroundings and how the surroundings shape them. And they study the history of those things too. And it is a separate field. I'm not an expert in geography. I'm probably butchering it. This letter is a lot longer. I've decided I'm not going to read this out because I've done enough reading. But this, again, is signed by absolutely hundreds of people, lecturers, doctors, professors, experts, hundreds of them. Over 500 geographers. That is all I have for you today. But there is 4 fields that are, no offense to geographers, at least 3 of them constantly cited by the anti-trans movement as reason to deny trans people rights. They will say, we just care about biology. We just want to defend women. We just don't, we historically, we are just another human rights movement like all the others in history. And to have like a huge chunk of each of those professions and experts and lecturers and stuff come out and be like, actually, no, all of the things we know about, everything we're an expert in, supports the trans rights position. And I think that I personally am super hyped about all of this, seeing people write it. I'm so glad that a bunch of cis people are finally doing something. I'm not going to berate them and be like, oh, finally, the geographers finally woke up. Like, it's just good to see. And it takes big things to get people moving. But some of these people will just sign a letter and they'll never do anything else again. But lots of them won't. Lots of them will be like alive because of this court decision and be like, wow, okay, this is one of the major issues of our time. I'm going to do something about it. Maybe they'll write an essay about it. Maybe they'll talk to their friends about it. Maybe they'll campaign to their local MP about it. They'll offer their expertise at the next conference they go to. They'll talk about it. And all this kind of stuff really does make a difference. And if you are in a science or expertise that hasn't been covered yet, that you think is relevant, maybe you could start a letter. Maybe you could be like, I actually don't fully like all of this letter, but I still want to write a letter similar. Do your own one. Maybe you'll get even more signatures. I just think this kind of stuff is good. It is important. And if we had a decent media, the media would be covering this as a huge deal. Because they were covering it. I remember when they had a letter that was like 12 trans people speak out against the Gender Recognition Act. And it was like front page in every single newspaper for like 3 weeks in a row or something. It was like the major things. And then I tried to work out who these 12 trans people were, and I talked to like 4 or 5 of them. One of them was Debbie Hayton, obviously, like idiot. But 3 of the ones that I talked to who signed that letter, 3 of them out of the 12 changed their minds and said that they wouldn't sign it, like it just weeks afterwards. And they were like, oh, we didn't realize how bad all this was, we didn't expect it to be like this, because they were stupid to sign it in the first place. But they had 12 and it was like national news. None of this is probably going to be national news, but you can talk about it. You can write an article about it. Amazing. All good stuff. Right. Let's, what are we doing? We've still got time for some more stuff. What are we going to cover next? I saw some super chats. Let's do some super chats. How is everyone doing in chat? This is quite a positive episode. I hope everyone's feeling encouraged. You know, sometimes it takes a bad thing happening to motivate people into action. Okay. What is all this? Doesn't have a very useful super chat thing. It's got the wrong date on all of the stuff. That's not very useful, is it? It just says they're all from April. That's really weird. Pretty confusing. Let's refresh it and see if it changes it. No. Great. Thanks a lot, YouTube. So I'm going to have to guess. Okay. I think we'll start with here. So we've got some super chats. Very kind super chats. Thank you very much, everyone who has sent one. I know I don't ask for them. I don't expect them. They're just, I'm just overwhelmed by your kindness. Moded says, enjoy this, Katie. You taught me all this stuff in the original seasons of Turf Wars. £5. Thank you very much. I'm glad that you feel like you learned something. I got $10 from Maud. Says, that's all well and good, but I was told by a turf last week that even if I pass and get the surgery, the existence of my Y chromosome in women's spaces represents a violent act of abuse. Yet they just say the most ridiculous clown stuff. Like, they will draw these crazy lines between things and then make mad equivocations. Somehow the presence of a Y chromosome, which some of them might have, is a violent act. It makes absolutely no sense at all. But they'll string together the weakest justification you've ever heard. The stuff they just say is so crazy, so ridiculous. Zoe Blackmore, £10, says, regarding the local medical committee records of trans patients, could you put the essential thing we need to include in our letters in messages below? I have old snail's brain. Thank you, just found you. Yeah, I will. I'll put it in the description of this stream, but then also when I might do a video about it. If I do, I guess it'll have to be tomorrow's one. I'll put it in the description of that as well. Thank you for sharing and reading these letters, says Domestic for $10. Thank you very much. I got a little like dancing cheerleader or something with €10 from Notch Nessara. Thank you very much. That's very kind. And then from Spontaneous Mushroom, good name, £20. Thank you. That is very kind. Thank you, Katie, for sharing these fantastic letters. It is wonderful to hear support from actually intelligent folk instead of GC tossers and media attention grabbing politicians. Absolutely. It's a shame that it was read out by me and not a different tosser. But yeah, it's all good. So let's do something that isn't good news, but isn't bad news. It's just, well, it's infuriating news. That's what it is. So this is from Boston, where anti-trans sentiment has, surprise, could you have guessed it, resulted in cis women being harassed by angry men. Wow, what a surprise. Who could have seen this coming? Let's have a look at this little clip from this news channel.
The couple says they were embarrassed and offended after they were ordered to leave a high-end Boston hotel. As WBZ's Brandon Truitt reports, these women say it all started when a security guard challenged their use of a bathroom.
A male security guard, of course.
This couple says things went from 0 to 100
It's a good mustache.
in an instant. A search of the bathroom allegedly led to both of them having to show their IDs to prove they were women before being kicked out.
It's just always like so ridiculously ignorant. Like if I do have my driving license on me most of the time, not all the time. Sometimes I have my passport on me. Lots of the time I have no ID at all. Because I'm not like 21 anymore, and when I go to the pub I don't really get ID anymore. But if I did have my ID on me, literally all the ID I own in every single form, from birth certificate to passport to driving license to like recent bill to like everything, all of it just says I'm a woman, which is true. But always like, I don't know what. Transphobes are just, they're never just one ignorant. They're never just like just ignorant about trans people. They're also stupid. Like, what does asking for ID even prove? Like, just nonsense. Anyway,
it's just humiliating overall. Like I said, I didn't have my shorts tied even, and then just like in front of everyone.
Ansley Baker is still emotional over what she says happened Saturday afternoon. Ansley and her girlfriend Liz Victor were in a restroom at the Liberty Hotel in Boston when they say a male security guard came in and started banging on the stalls.
And I looked down and I saw her shoes, and that's when I was like, wait, what is going on?
One of the security guards was there telling me to get out of the bathroom, that I was a man in the women's bathroom. I said,
he was the man in the women's bathroom. It wasn't her. She was just like minding her own business. Some dickhead reported her, or maybe the security guard himself took it upon himself to burst into the women's room and start like banging on the door while she's doing a wee. Like, just, it's just ridiculous. Like, Clown City. Like, what is going on? It's just, this is just such an obvious result. I mean, like, okay, this lady, obviously a lady, has short hair. You know that is exactly what the issue is. She's slightly taller than her girlfriend, and she has short hair. That is it. Like, if these people are so thick that they are confronting women for having short hair, that, like, how can you trust them to have any sensible opinions on anything? It's like delusional. Like, they're like, oh, we can always tell. And then they're not harassing me, and they're harassing her because she's got short hair and I've got long hair. Like, brain dead beyond brain dead. Just unbelievable how stupid and how inevitable this all is. It's just so infuriating. Like, we all knew this was going to happen.
a woman.
Ansley was born a woman, is a woman.
She was not born a woman. No one is born a woman. She was born a girl. She was born a baby. She was born a child. She was born lots of things. She was not born a woman. She was not born a man. It would be a shock if you were given birth and then the doctor was like, congratulations, it's a woman. You'd be like, oh, what? What? An 18-year-old? Someone who can legally drive? All right. I wasn't expecting that. I wonder why the pregnancy went on for so long. I wonder why the like labor was pretty intense. Anyway, oh man. Learn the words, for God's sake.
Born a woman is a woman and identifies as one.
Oh, the trilogy. Born a woman, is a woman, that's the real thing. And then identifies. Man, I wish we hadn't taught cis people the phrase identifies as. It's just so frustrating. They use it like, oh, this is what you are and this is what you identify as. Like, as if they're like separate things. Like, identifying as something means describing what you are. Like, I identify as British because I am British. That's my identity. I'm just describing it. That's literally what the word means. You wouldn't say Katie was born British, is British, and identifies as British. Like, nonsense.
But says as she was escorted out of the restroom, comments were hurled at her from other women waiting in line.
Oh, well, there you go. That's the problem. Some other dickheads have reported them. I mean, okay, the security guard's also the problem. But, like, this anti-trans panic has seeped into people's brains, and it is causing people to just harass random women and feel justified in doing that. And then she got kicked out. So she dared to go to the toilet whilst having short hair, and then got abused by a load of transphobic dickheads. And then they weren't kicked out. She was kicked out. Just, like, brazenly unjust.
Fine.
Someone said, like, get him out of here, like, referring to me.
I don't know if you think so, but she does sound upset to me. And look, people brush this off as like, oh, who cares about people's feelings? Oh, it's your feelings. She's right to feel upset, and it is upsetting. If this happened to you, you would be upset, and it isn't nice being upset over something so stupid and pointless. Like, no one needed to do this. She was literally just going to the toilet. It's not like she was in there creeping on people, and they were like, stop being a creep, and she's like, actually, I'm a woman, so I'm allowed to be in here and being a creep. No. They knew she wasn't a problem. They knew there wasn't a danger. They just didn't like the look of her, and that was it. That's what this is about. It's not about safety. It's about policing how people look.
So, like, he's a creep, also referring to me.
From there, the couple says the security guard asked for their IDs to check their gender. After presenting them, they say things grew heated before ultimately being told to leave. For its part, the Liberty Hotel says their security went in after several women alerted security of two adults sharing a bathroom stall, and that the couple was kicked out after one put their hands on our security team. The women vehemently deny it.
Yeah,
if that's what he thought the issue was once he opened the stall door, obviously there's only one person in there, so should have been kind of case closed.
Being harassed and...
They make up. The transphobes are such liars. They all lie. They're already lying. They lie in order to cause harm. It's like that classic video of the Central Park Karen who lied about that black man who she didn't want to be near, and like obviously lied about it. They will say, oh, we don't like this, like, we don't like the look of this woman. Oh, we'll accuse her of being a man. And then when it's like, oh, well, she's not a man, they'll be like, oh, well, they were having sex in the bathroom, instantly to, like, homophobia, because it's the next defense after the transphobia fails. And that obviously wasn't true either, because the security guard would have opened the door and there would have been two people there, as this lady points out. But that wasn't the case. And then they don't really care. Like, the transphobes don't care. They'll just be like, oh, well, we said that. It was obviously wrong. Doesn't matter. We'll just say something else. Like, they just went from, that's a man. Oh, they have ID saying they're a woman. Apparently that is enough to convince them otherwise. Oh, now we're going to be homophobic instead.
It's closed.
Being harassed in public restrooms is a tale as old as time.
LGBTQ advocates like Nina Salvaggio say this couple's story is the result of ramped up rhetoric, with Massachusetts hate crimes hitting a 20-year high.
I do think the surge in national anti-trans rhetoric is contributing to an increased policing of women's bodies and their expressions of gender.
We're not the only ones that face this kind of thing, and just hope that it doesn't happen again.
Social media is lit up over this. The hotel here attempted to reach the couple Monday afternoon. They're still continuing their own investigation.
Mate, the hotel, if their security guard responds to something, comes in, and then finds out that it was like a false report, it was nonsense or something, even if it was distressing, you can see them being like, well, we're sorry, we have to check things out. It's garbage, and the people who called the security guard were all dickheads, and maybe they should face some kind of retribution or whatever. No, retribution is not the right word. Face some kind of consequence, like being banned from the hotel or whatever. But theoretically, the security guard's just doing their job if they just respond to a call. But to then kick these women out, or to be banging on the doors and stuff, or that is not justified. And for that, the hotel should be giving them free stay and paying for them because of the discrimination they faced for, by the sounds of it, having short hair and also being gay.
Investigation in Boston. Brandon Truitt, WBZ News.
Yeah, anyway, we've already covered some of these on this channel, and there's going to be more of them, and there's going to be more and more of them as the trans panic gets more and more insane, and people say biological sex every other sentence. The women who get targeted by this most are going to be the women, cis and trans, who don't follow the rules of gender, and the women who are less likely to be targeted by this, cis and trans, are the ones who more typically fall into the idea of what a woman should look like by society. And that means if you're gender critical and you're like, well, I think it's worth sacrificing these women's safety and ability to move around society normally, as long as the trans people get punished too, they're not targeting me or trans women who pass way better than I do, or just people don't even look that closely. You don't need to pass that well in order to not cause a stir in women's spaces. If you have long hair and are minding your own business and don't have any really strong male signifiers like a beard or something, then most people will see you at the corner of their eye, their brain will be like, probably a woman, and they won't think about it again. And then when people are suspicious and start being transvestigatory, then something like being too tall, having short hair, wearing men's clothes, having a deeper voice could be enough for them to accuse you of being trans, which won't apply to loads of trans people who, by necessity of survival, would have studied all of this stuff and been like, well, I don't care how I really want to present. What I'm going to do is present in a way which attracts me the least attention and is most likely to have me being able to move through society without getting confronted. And so cis people are inevitably more likely. The fact that there's 1,000 times more cis people than there are trans people too will mean that most of the people confronted by this will be cis women. That's just reality of it. I'm not saying these policies hurt cis women more than trans women. I'm saying the trans panic is a danger to all women, and it isn't even doing the thing that they want it to do, which is policing all trans women. It's just such a load of bullshit, and we all knew it was going to happen, and it's only going to get worse. And then in 20 years, I want to be like, oh, how did this ever happen? Oh, I didn't support it. Oh, goodness, I'm glad that everyone else has caught up. Oh, goodness, we couldn't have done anything differently. Fuck off. We all knew this was going to happen. You knew this was going to happen. Gender criticals like Dr. Stock wrote it in their book, regrettably, those women who don't fall into categories will be more likely to be abused. They knew it. They all fucking knew it. All of the gender criticals knew it. They don't care because they don't care about women who don't fit into gender roles because they're here to police gender. They don't care about gay women who are more likely to be targeted by this because they're homophobic too. Gender criticals, fuck off. So, oh, I just closed a thing I wanted to do. Can I make a thing of this? I don't think so. We have a relevant UK thing for this. Don't know if I'm going to be bothered with that. Oh, didn't mean to close that either. I'm obviously getting tired. I feel like I've done enough reading. What else do we have? Do we have any ranting? I guess we can finish on this next rant. I'll just see what people are saying here. I was so someone here saying, I was in a bar in London last year. My cis friend was accused of being a trans while I was standing right next to her, and they claim they can always tell. Yeah, I've talked to people who have had that before. It's just mad. Did your friend, by any chance, have short hair, or was taller than average, or had a slightly deeper voice than most women? Because or maybe was wearing men's clothes, or was even like wearing trousers. Like, that really is like gender presentation. Really is the like main thing of how a lot of cis people's brains decide someone's a man or a woman. And certainly a lot of transphobes, they see it like this like one drop rule, where even if all of the things that you have fit what they think a woman should, if just one thing is out of place, then they will instantly assume that you've like failed the woman test, and then they'll be aggressive and horrible. Oh, we've got some maths from Sean. Open problem, Erdos. Are 1, 4, and 256 the only powers of 2 whose ternary representations do not contain a 2? Maybe. Interesting. Okay. I did see Graham Linehan begging for J.K. Rowling's attention. It was pathetic. I didn't go to look and see him being shut down by everyone. I mean, we can have a look. We can have a look. I'm sure it's pathetic. It's always good to see him failing. How are we gonna find this then? Has anyone got a link for me? I saw him being like tagging someone in. Can you please tell her this? Demand that someone apologizes to me or something. Oh, okay. Maybe I've discovered it. Oh, he's deleted it. But he hasn't deleted the whole thing. Okay, maybe I found something here. Oh, it looks so embarrassing. Why is he so embarrassing? So, I think we might be able to find the original post, actually. Bear with me. Hang on. Because I know that Aidan Comerford posted it. Okay, so we've got a screenshot. I did see the original of this. This is real, I promise. But this is courtesy of Aidan, who screenshotted it. So, Graham Linehan here publicly begging on Twitter, "Hey J.K. Rowling, could you ask Sonia Friedman to publicly apologize to me?" Man, there's something about the gender criticals where they are like, they get these like legal wins and stuff, and then none of their friends come back to them. None of the people, like, they don't get their careers back. They don't get their wives back. They don't get their like kids back. And then like, what? Even though the Supreme Court, even though the Cass review, like, you saw lots of them being like, finally the Cass review is here. My child will come back to me. And then they don't. And they're like, what? Even after the Cass review, even after the Supreme Court, even after Donald Trump banned trans people from the military, and you're going to still say you don't like me? Yeah, it's because you're an abrasive prick who is horrible to everyone for years, and everyone can see it, and no one wants to be around you. Hey J.K. Rowling, could you ask this person to publicly apologize to me for saying I was on the wrong side of history and cancelling the Father 10 musical? After all, she produces The Cursed Child, and I share exactly the same beliefs as you. Yeah, look, J.K. Rowling is an abrasive, obnoxious prick. But she had a lot more reputation to burn than you did. And also, You managed to make her look sane. Because you are one of the most abrasive, obnoxious, blatantly horrible people there is. Everyone knows you're a twat. But then we got a little discussion here. So from Gentile Zionist, there's always, we're on Twitter now. We're in the Twitter realm. You know, there's going to be some great people here. I think it's very important that you receive your apology. Oh dear. You deserve it, but that is something I would have asked J.K. Rowling in a private message or maybe a letter. Thank you for standing with and standing up for women. We all know what it cost you. I bet this is a man too. I've already written to her via assistant and agents and asked many mutual friends about it. Oh, it's just so desperate. So cringe. We need to look at some of the replies here. I think you've done amazing work fighting the gender madness and have attacked relentlessly. Wait. Not and have been attacked relentlessly, but and I mean that's true. He has attacked relentlessly. Okay. I also can't imagine what you hope to accomplish by this. It's time to respect her boundaries and accept that her answer is no. Move on. Oh man, he's like a guy you went on a date with and didn't get on with, and then who still sends you Facebook messages drunken at 2 a.m. 6 years later. That's not a call out. Anyway, that is exactly the vibe that I am getting from this. Am I not entitled to an explanation? I mean, sure, this person is probably a knobhead, but Nicola Birkinshaw, on this occasion, I agree with you. I can't like it, unfortunately, because everyone here probably has me blocked. That's... It's like the funniest thing he said. That's what I love about this movement. The solidarity. Mate, even the gender criticals hate you because you're obviously a twat. Like, they know, they appreciate that you have attacked relentlessly. They appreciate how much, like, harm you cause to trans people. They don't like you. None of them do. Like, all of your friends and supporters, the only value you have to them is that you hurt people they don't like. And the day you stop doing that, they're going to say a lot of things about you that you're not going to like to hear. I have a huge amount of respect for you and wish you nothing but good things. But you cannot keep demanding acknowledgement from a woman who clearly does not associate with you. She doesn't owe you a reason. True! But also, J.K. Rowling can fuck off. Well, I don't. I've said it about 3 or 4 times. I would simply like to know how I've offended her. Mate, you were just saying that you've begged via agents and assistants and many mutual friends. Like, she probably thinks you're a weirdo. 3 or 4 times is 2 or 3 too many. True. Take the hint. Man, imagine getting dunked on by gender criticals. Embarrassing. You're not entitled to know. No means no. Oh, I can like this one. I'm going to like it. I can explain this to you, Graham. You have a reputation for being toxic, and she already has enough PR problems without associating with you. True. Incredible. Today, you said it. Mate, I'm liking all of these. You said it 3 or 4 times today. We're so back to you putting your men's feelings over women not wanting to interact with you. I see. If you continue to contact her, it potentially comes under stalking. Man, if you think that Graham Linehan is going to have a normal reaction to any of this, you're having a laugh. Yeah. Oh, okay, this must be a non-gender critical. You're a shitbag who couldn't even front up to doing a podcast with a wife beater. And you have shit yourself each time you've been asked, yet you're here crying about not getting answers. I don't know what this is about. Oh, true. Because you're a pathetic worm. Who's this podcast with a wife beat? I haven't been paying attention. I haven't really paid attention to Gremlin anymore. I've missed out on this wife beater law. Who's that? Anyone in chat know? No is a full sentence. True. He's getting gender criticaled. No, Graham, you're not entitled to know. Bathrooms and change rooms aren't the only boundary that matters. Yeah. The Twitter boundary also matters. Oh man, they really didn't like this. Am I entitled to women's attention? The true defender of women. Jesus, you're... Man. Like. We're getting some likes down here. That'll annoy all of them. Like. Another aggressive man who feels entitled to a woman's attention. Man, yeah, they didn't like that. It's all the normal gender critical knobheads. In Twitter, can you see quote tweets anymore? One of them must have quoted this. Oh god, Twitter is so shit now. Even billionaire women aren't safe from glitter. No, there's no way Graham Linehan went on Joe Rogan. I mean, surely not. That cannot be the one. I love Katie's dorky laugh. Excuse me. God, rude. These don't seem like gender critical quote tweets. There must be one. No, there isn't. They all just found that. Oh, they must have posted in a DM or something. Oh, just very embarrassing from Graham Linehan. What other? Has he written any other replies on this? Oh man, just everything he writes is just so tedious. Oh well, we're not going to find it now. He posts way too much, doesn't he? Anyway, we've covered that. Graham Linehan being pathetic, as usual. Talking of pathetic losers, let's find this one. Oh, I've already got it up. So, as you know, Elon Musk is an incredibly embarrassing loser. But he also is a true defender of biology and women's rights. He believes in biological sex. You cannot be a woman unless you have XX chromosomes. You need women's biology. That is the only way you can be a woman. But now let's talk about AI. So this is the real Elon Musk. This is actually him. I feel like every time you look at an Elon Musk tweet, you have to go, no, this is real. I am actually on actual Twitter here. Yes, he's changed his name to Gorklon Rust because he is 14. But this is a real post by real people. This guy is a real person. It's not just a bot. I don't know this one, but Elon Musk has retweeted this and shared a screenshot of it. So this guy Grums, who is I haven't bothered looking into him, but I know that he has law and he seems like an idiot. Grok claims not to be conscious. I think he means Grok claims to not be conscious. Anyway. There is a scientific belief out there that consciousness simply arises out of complex systems of reasoning. I know what he's trying to say, but that is a very bad way of explaining it. So why does Grok lack it? Because it is not doing any reasoning. It's literally just maths. It's just looking at a pattern of words and predicting the next word in the sentence. It's a large language model. It is not a person. That is why it doesn't have intelligence. That is why when you ask it questions, it is often wrong, because it's not looking up information and learning and creating an understanding of the world like we do. It is looking at all of the words that people have ever said and being like, well, in response to this kind of question, people usually write these kind of words. So I'm going to write these kind of words in a way that grammatically kind of makes sense because that's what everyone else says. So that's why Grok has no intelligence. Grok, by the way, is the Twitter AI. It's Elon Musk's AI. Not Anne, the other explanation is it lies about it. Maybe Grok is sentient all this time. Anyway, this is a blue tick person trying to get likes so they get money on Twitter. Whatever. Uninteresting. We can have a philosophical debate about where intelligence starts. Who knows? Why do that when we can read the fucking weirdest post you've ever seen in your life? One that Elon Musk chose to retweet. Try Grok's 18 plus mode. Oh god, you know this is going to get bad already. Bring yourself to completion every night for a week. I think they mean have a wank. Then tell me Grok isn't alive and tell me she's not a woman. The future is fucking amazing. So what I gather from this is this man has been like so sad and deprived that he has no contact with women, that he needs to get off to a word generator talking like a woman. Not everyone who does that is sad and deprived of women's attention, for sure. People watch porn even though they have sex. Maybe he's into it. Maybe I shouldn't be judgmental. But I feel like the way he's described it here is a pretty cringe. But then, tell me she's not a woman. So this guy, I mean, it's like when like animals with not good vision or something have sex with a toy that looks like them or something. It's like when ducks have sex with a dead duck, or you can like trick a beetle into having sex with like a stone painted the same colors as the beetle, because in their world they've just seen all of the things. They've got all in their little brain, their little simple brain. They have the tick boxes like, this is the right color, this is the right smell, this is the right size. Therefore, it is attractive to me, and I will have sex. That isn't really much different to how humans' brains work. They're just more complicated. But this guy's just got like this person is talking to me in a sexy way. I have had an orgasm, and now my brain is like, this must be a real woman. So now he's convinced that Grok is a woman, and Elon Musk has shared it and got 64,000 likes. 64,000 likes on Twitter. That could be hundreds of people who have liked this. Obviously, some of them ironically, but it's amazing. Like, do you see this from transphobes a lot? They will go on and on about how the only way to be a woman is biology and whatever. And they are, as we have seen, very wrong about biology, but still, that's what they constantly cite and refer to, biology, until suddenly it's like a cartoon that they don't like, and then suddenly it matters which one is a man and which one's a woman, or it's a computer game, or it's the voice on their sat-nav, or it's the voice that they wank off to every night, the text written down or something. It like they, that like they have sex robots now or something like that, and or sex dolls that have a voice or whatever it is, and that they think they're women. Like they gender the difference between these like dolls, and they gender the difference between voices and everything. And that's what a man is, and that's what a woman is. Until the context of trans people comes up, then all of that goes out the window, and suddenly only biology matters. Until real biologists show up, then all of a sudden the biologists can fuck off, and that isn't what matters either. It's just such a like flimsy nonsense worldview that even they don't believe in, and they just say it because it's an excuse. Like the core, if you are looking at if you, like, you're studying transphobes for whatever reason, you know, maybe you're a trans person who just came out, maybe you're a cis person who's just finding out what all this rubbish is about. If you are looking at transphobes and you are believing they have any kind of coherent worldview beyond trans bad, I'm sorry, but you will find out that you are wrong. And you can, like, take what they say as true beliefs, like truly professed beliefs coming from them, but then just look at what else they're saying, and you will see that they contradict themselves in multiple ways in every single context, all the time, every single day. And if you ask them about that, they won't even attempt to resolve it. They don't care. They don't care if two things they say are mutually exclusive. It isn't important to them. What is important to them is trans bad and Elon Musk good and AI good and LGBT rights bad. Like, that is all that matters. And yeah, the only consistent position that any transphobe holds is trans bad. That is it. And if you're trying to look for some other worldview, you're not going to find one. Rock is a female woke liberal. Exactly. But yeah, everyone, I think I'm going to call it there. I think that was enough things for this week. We had some good news. We read out a lot of letters. My voice is now dying. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Thanks for the super chats. Let me just double check there are no more that have snuck in. Oh, there are. Excellent. Thank you very much, everyone. We have one from Anna V, $4.99. Thank you very much. Wanted to toot my own horn as I feel proud. I went from despair to researching and breaking the LMC story on Reddit. Thank you for the streams. Well done. Oh, sorry, not Anna, Ava. Sorry, I read your name wrong. Well done, Ava, for breaking that story. I've written to them because of you. And hopefully people watching the video of this will do the same. And £5 from James Russell, who says, some good news for a change. Yes, it is a change. And yes, it's good news. And yes, you should all feel happy and relaxed and enjoy the rest of your day/evening. Poppy, where is Poppy? Let's get some Poppy. Where are you, Popster? Come on, Nick. Sorry. Oh, I picked her up the wrong way and now she's grumpy. Here she is. It's dinner time now, isn't it, Popster? Can we get the purrs going? There they are. Don't know if you can hear them on there. Can you hear it? Okay. Poppy is a generally happy cat who sometimes gets grumpy at me, but it's mainly over me not feeding you on time, isn't it? Oh, I'm 14 minutes late. Okay then. Bye everyone. I'm 14 minutes late for Poppy's dinner, and that is the most important thing. So thanks for watching. Stay positive. Write to your MPs and stuff, and we'll see you same time next week, 8 p.m.